Thank you for your time. I have just a couple more questions, if you
Yeah,
don't
sure.
mind.
Yeah, I got a
Um,
few more minutes. Yeah.
this trauma-focused therapy,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
I have two questions, right?
Sure.
Why is that important for the Black community,
Yeah.
number one,
Mm-hmm.
to engage in trauma-focused therapy? But then also, what about other communities of color? Why is that important for them too?
Yeah. Well, because we have to start focusing on the trauma because the trauma is impacting our entire lives. And if we
Uh-huh.
don't focus on it, then we won't address it, right? And so then it just carries over, right? So
What,
then the format, I'm sorry, go ahead. The
what's
modality
what's
itself,
what's the Black trauma?
oh gosh, it's slavery. I mean, we go back to that. Like that's number one.
No,
So,
I'm saying it because a lot of
oh,
people, you know what I'm saying, might
I
not
got you.
make
Yeah.
that connection because sometimes and not maybe, I'm not trying to say that there's anything pathological. A lot of times we just get so used to living, and I'm
Yes.
struggling. I'm trying to make
Yeah.
it day to day, and so
Well, we're taught to
sometimes,
just live, right?
Mhm.
We're taught to live it and just survive it.
And
We're,
so the reality is that Black trauma becomes an intellectual pursuit
absolutely.
that educated Black people,
Mm-hmm.
right? You and
Yeah.
I can sit
Yep.
around
Yes.
and talk about,
Yep. Yep.
right? And
And
so
I hate it because I need action. I ain't got time to keep talking about
correct.
nothing.
And so it seems like it's just this intellectual
It
pursuit,
is. It
and
is.
it's not something that is actually a lived experience. And that's why I'm asking you to talk about what
Yeah.
Black trauma is, because some
Yeah.
people have just accepted it as just being life.
Yes. Like we are, born in poverty, right? Like, and so we can't do any better, and the man's keeping us down, right? So there's
Mm-hmm.
that mentality that's out there, which I believe. When I say access to resources, that's what I mean. Like everybody does not have the same access to
Mm-hmm.
resources. So I get that there are a lot of Black folks who just don't have access, and we had
Yeah.
access. Woo, that's scary.
Well, another ball game. There's a reason why they keep it from us.
Exactly, right? They didn't want us to read because they didn't want us to know what was
Mm-hmm.
in the book so we could
Mm-hmm.
learn and do
Mm-hmm.
better. God
Mm-hmm.
forbid, right? So and then some people just accept that. Like, it's okay. Like, I'm cool. Like, this is where I'll stay.
Yeah.
There's some people who get the access and then they become Uncle Toms, right? So then you get that. There's another piece of trauma. Like, so I think also people get scared. Like, I'm going to become an Uncle Tom, so I won't go and do these things. And I'm going to leave my people, and I don't want to become that person. But there's a happy medium. There is. If you have the access to resources, you learn. I had learned very early. I don't know where it came from, but I learned the game. I learned these degrees as part of the game, right?
Yes.
I'm going to get these degrees so I can get whatever you tell me I need to get on these walls, but I can still be me.
Yep.
And do what I need to do for my people. And
Yep.
also do it for my other people, right? Like I have white clients. Like I'm not like, I don't like my white clients. No, I'm going to do the work. I just know the struggle. So now I'm able to kind of pass these things down, especially like it's become a specialization. I didn't even know it. Like young Black girls, like in their 20s and 30s, that I have a lot, like 50% of my case though, is young Black girls who just are struggling with self-esteem and, not feeling pretty enough and not, especially the dark-skinned girls, we got that colorism thing still going on for us. So they're struggling. Right. So all that's part of trauma. All of that is included. And so if we don't do some of that trauma focused stuff, we think that that's just life, right? That's just how it is. That was just my life. It is what it is. What's the point of talking about it? Like, I mean, what can I do about it, really? You can do a lot. You have to acknowledge it in order to get past it.
Mm-hmm.
We got to acknowledge it. We got to process it. And then we got to get past it.
Yep,
It's
I
not
agree.
that easy. But if you don't acknowledge it and just act like, oh, well, that's just part of life.
We keep passing it down. And that's the thing. We don't realize that.
That's it.
So the last question is really, what about other communities of color, right? Because I think our racial trauma is well known, harder to escape, is pervasive in the psyche of American society.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of, and maybe I'm going to color the question. I think a lot of other minority groups come to and live in this country, see themselves as being different and better than the Black community. And so that leads them to operate under the false assumption that they themselves are inoculated from this trauma until there's some sort of like really big traumatic rude awakening that they experience. Yeah. So can you talk about why examining racial trauma is important for all minority groups?
Well, you just said it, like, because that's what they think. And I just had this, I listened to Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black man, former football player. I'm sure you've seen it. He has a YouTube channel, right? And he was talking with Oprah, and there was a Latina woman who came on, and she was talking about how we don't experience, like, they try to lump us all together like Black and brown, right? And she's like, we don't really experience the same kind of, well, I'm going to say trauma. That's not the word she used, but trauma that Black folks feel. So I don't understand why they lump us together. And I really don't understand the plight of Black people. Like, what is the big deal? I feel like education has to be all around. Like, y'all got to understand, like, we just not mad, like, or just angry to be angry. Like, there's a reason. And if yesterday didn't show you privilege in action, I don't know what will.
You're in another level of denial.
Absolutely. And so I think it's important for them to learn. So I saw a meme that said McGraw-Hill, don't get this wrong, or get this part right, or something like that, right? Like, read these textbooks. That's another piece. Like, we got to have some more representation. So what y'all teaching these kids is not full reality.
Yes.
Right? You're talking a little bit about slavery. Oh, that slavery thing happened for 400 years, whatever. And then the civil rights happened and it's all done. What? That's not really how this is working. No. No. And so I think we have to educate all of our Black, brown, everybody, white. They have to get a little more educated. I had to educate myself a little bit. I grew up in, more, but my schools were more predominantly white. So they didn't teach that in my schools. Then I married my husband from the inner city, from East Cleveland, who taught me about all this stuff that he knows.
He opened your eyes.
So we got to educate ourselves and other folks, and they have to be willing and able to listen. So
listen, Dr. Darby, thank you.
We can go all day. So
yeah, I was just about to say those exact words. Yeah.
I appreciate it.
I really can't thank you enough. And I'm going to do my best to promote the work that you're doing. Again, we're going to, edit this and put it up on the website. And I really wish you the best. And I hope that you continue to stay blessed in the work that you're doing. And that you're such an asset to your community.
Appreciate it.
That you feel appreciated by them, and that people join in the work that you're doing, and that it continues to be fruitful.
I do. It is. Like, we get a lot of referrals. I've just hired my third therapist, and I have 2 Black therapists, which is amazing because it's hard to find, hard to, come by. So I thank you so much, and anytime I can help, I'm open.
Yeah. I'm going to lean on you.
Oh, no problem. Service is in that. I'm a Delta, so we got to do service.
Oh, look at that. Yeah.